First, I'd like to thank Commissioner Dennis for inviting me along with Chad today. It's a pleasure to be in front of everyone. I see some familiar faces, but for those who don't know me, I took over for Karen Page a little over a year ago now as the head of Kansas Global. So at least I'm finishing, well, I just finished my first year and excited to report on a program that she started about 3 years ago. So I'll start with that. Okay, so about 5 years ago, the city, Kansas Global, and Brookings did a study on the export environment in the Wichita area. And because of the findings of that program, Kansas Global started a program in conjunction with or in partnership with the city of Wichita that would allow Wichita to expand its exports in a few different ways. The report found that Kansas and Wichita in particular is heavily dependent economically on exports. It will surprise no one that the exports mostly coming out of this area were agriculture and aviation, primarily aviation. But one of the goals that came out of that plan was to diversify the exports that are coming out of this area. Diversify in general, but also diversify. We were very strongly product oriented, again, with ag and aviation. But services is also an exportable, we'll call it a product for now. So we wanted to expand on our services that we were exporting as well. So the Export Accelerator Program was created. And the idea is that we take 5 companies a year, one of which could be aviation, 4 others that need to be some other product or service, that we help them from beginning to end enter a new international market. That could be a service, and I'll go through some of the companies we've worked with, or at least the sectors that we've worked with over the last few years here in a minute. But it could be anything from software as a service, could be beer is one that we'll see, could be furniture that is being produced here, all different manner of different types of products and services. But the goals, as mentioned on the slide here, grow our overall exports in general, diversify the exporting industries that we're exporting, expand percentage of service exports, which I'll show in a few minutes that we have started to do, and increase jobs through these exports. And kind of as an extension of that, we are trying to create an exporter network as well. And I'll talk a little bit about how we're doing that in a few minutes. The program starts by Kansas Global working with the client to really determine where in the world. When you're new to export, you've never gone before, sometimes people go say, oh, I've got a cousin in X country, maybe we could go there, right? Not a very data-centric strategic move necessarily, other than a personal connection. We try to take real hard data, looking at in some cases, we use the same data for all clients. So we're looking at ease of doing business across the world. We're looking at where in the world has the most imports in their particular sector. In some cases, some clients are more comfortable maybe with an English-speaking country versus a non-English speaking country. So we do factor some of those preferences in as well. Maybe there's a demographic, maybe their product serves a demographic of men from age 30 to 50. So we look at that as well. So real data driven in terms of our methodology. After we've got a short list, so we look literally at every single country in the world. We have a spreadsheet that we provide our clients. We narrow it down to about 4 to 5 countries that we think are going to be the targets. We're part of a network called IBG Global. It's a group of consultants all across the world. So we have our clients and ourselves meet with that particular client or consultant rather in that country to test our theory. So from about an hour to an hour and a half conversation with, again, 4 to 5 different consultants across the world, we narrow it down to the one country that they're going to export for that year. Not a foolproof. We've had a couple of circumstances where we thought one thing, but when we went even deeper, we found something else. But at least it provides a real, again, data information-based rationale for going into a particular country. Once we've done that, we work with our partner overseas to provide our clients with a market research report. They start looking for either a distributor or another type of partner that will help them enter that particular market. And through the course of the year, we go through a vetting process of who they're actually going to partner with. The goal is that they come out of that year with a partner that's going to allow them to successfully sell their product or service overseas. So that's the process. Right now, in terms of the kind of the timeline that we've been on, so the program wonderfully started in March of 2020. Well, we all know what happened in March of 2020. COVID hit Kansas amongst the rest of the world, and the program got delayed by a few months trying to figure out how do you handle this process that originally was supposed to take clients overseas as part of it when the world was shut down. Thankfully, as we've all learned these last 2.5 years, the internet is a wonderful thing and Zoom is a wonderful thing. So we were able to take some of the meetings and whatnot that would have happened overseas online or through a virtual platform. But our 2020 cohort, the first cohort, we're in our third year now, just finished signing deals and whatnot earlier this year in the first quarter. So we should have real hard data a year from now in terms of what their first year of sales actually looks like. Second cohort is still in process. Most of them are at a point now where they're talking with potential partners. So by the fall, we believe that we'll be finishing with most of them, and they should have partners coming out of the program. And then right now, and where I'll ask you at the end of this, is that we're recruiting for our third cohort of companies this year. We've got one in the program now, and I've got two that I believe are going to be signing shortly, but we're looking for two more. So that's a ask I'm going to ask of all of you here in just a little while. What's really great about this program and why I think it's so innovative is that it's really a fairly low cost program in terms of what it costs both us and the clients to do. But over time, there's going to be exponential growth. So as the first group goes through and they're starting to sell, they're not going to sell for just 1 year, right? They're going to continue to sell presumably year after year after year. And then each year you're adding in more companies into the fold. So we'll see a nice curve of the types of sales that were and revenue generated from this program as the years go on. So by year 4, we estimate that it'll be about $1 to $2 million, $1 million to $2 million in revenue sales after the first year for each cohort combined. So if it's 1 million after the first year, if that's correct, presumably they'll sell more as years go on, but also you add in more sales. Again, you'll see that nice growth over time. Sectors represented, we're doing at this point 40%, which isn't as helpful for WAMPO in terms of services, which aren't necessarily going over roads to get to market. But from the perspective of the export plan and one of our goals, we have 40% of our current companies within the program that are on the service side and 60% that are our products. As you can see, it really ranges in terms of the types. I think over time, as we do this more year after year after year, we'll start to see more trends on which products beyond aviation and ag tend to rise to the top in terms of ones that are key for us. But right now, we've got a very nice range of different types of companies. We're also exporting all over the world. I was meeting with Becky Tuttle the other day for lunch, and she asked me, where in the world are you seeing bigger trends? Here's the graph of what we're seeing, at least in the first 3 years so far of the program. We're seeing quite a bit in Europe, no surprise there. I'm actually a little surprised that we haven't done more in both Mexico and Canada. Those are our largest export markets, of course, for the United States, but we're finding that some other locations in the world are also very key. Australia has been a very popular destination for our clients so far. We also happen to have a really strong consultant partner there, and they're excellent. So to some degree, we're steering companies towards places where we really trust our partners in those countries to find it. But even so, even just with the data, Australia has been a surprisingly strong market for our clients. I'm not going to go through all of this for the sake of time, but just some key points to put out. 3 out of the 5 participants from the first year cohort succeeded in finding partners. 2 did not. The one that I will kind of describe, Tyler Walston, who actually used to work for Kansas Global, he got hired by that client. And that was one where I mentioned earlier, sometimes we find that the process maybe didn't select the right country because there's maybe a regulation that we weren't aware of or whatnot. That's what happened with them. That said, Tyler has utilized the work that we did in order to help them grow into other countries too. So not directly our credit, but some of the work that we provided definitely did help, has helped them expand into other locations. This year, at this point, it's looking good for all 5. We'll see what ends up happening, again, this fall, but I would say 4 out of the 5 are in very strong position at this point to succeed. And one company we found in Canada was not the right fit, but we had enough budget left over in our marketing budget to be able to help them in another location as well. So we're looking at that now. I don't know what exactly happened with my presentation. Look, not quite as, but anyway, here we are. These are some of the quotes. Again, for time's sake, I'll go through them. Anyone wants a copy of the presentation, I'm happy to share this. And then lastly, how can you all help? Like I said, we are in recruitment right now. Some of the rules in place for us on this is that, again, only 1 aviation company a year out of the 5. We can also help a company that's in one of the communities surrounding Wichita each year too. So if you have, for those of you who are not Wichita based, if you know companies that you think might be interested this year or in future years, we'd be happy to look at them as well. I'll leave it there. I wanted to go through this fairly fast because of time, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may all have.
Questions for Laura? Commissioner Meitzner.
Hey, thanks, Laura.
Yeah.
Hey, back when Karen was teaching me and others about export business, at one time, I think the Brookings Institute was able to report
Yes.
a % of every new dollar into Kansas. And then we kind of use that as is it still in that 40, 50 cents per dollar? New dollar is out of this area?
It's in that realm. Yeah, it's in that general vicinity of it. And I can actually find out the exact number if you'd like.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, it's helpful when we're selling the region, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to be wrong if we're quoting 40 or 50 cents of every new dollar.
Sure.
Into Kansas coming from this area is very powerful. So
It's, I don't have the data in my head, but I will find out. But also, I think that's going to be in that realm based off of what I do know. Any other questions I can answer? Okay, I will leave it there for today. And again, if anyone's interested in the presentation, happy to share it.
Laura, thank you very much. Thanks for what you do to help with exports.